Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have John Ferrara, founder and CEO of Nimble. Nimble is the award-winning social sales and marketing CRM for individuals and teams. John, I'm so excited to have you on the show, not only because you are the pioneer behind CRMs and almost the creator, inventor, connoisseur of CRMs, but really you've seen this not only adoption of client customer relationship management systems, but also the evolution of it and seeing it bleed into many different industries. We talked about a little bit of how it can affect me on the show, but I'm also thinking about ways it can affect other industries in terms of like Web3 in particular and how those communities are actually managed by these robust systems. So really excited to chat about CRMs, Nimble, and all that. But before we get into that topic, what were you doing before you started the company?
Well, first off, let me just thank you, Julian, for inviting me to come to Behind Company Lines to have a conversation that I hope in the end inspires and educates your community about how they might be able to achieve their dreams. Because I think that we're on this planet to grow, and we grow best by helping other people grow. Answering your question. So before I started Nimble many years ago, I actually invented contact management and CRM and market automation before Outlook existed, before Salesforce existed, before any of the market automation companies existed, with a company called GoldMine. And I did that because I struggled with managing my own relationships as a sales rep for a tech startup. And there wasn't any tool to do it. So I quit my job, started a company, bootstrapped it to $125 million a year in revenue, sold it when I was 40, and I retired for 10 years. And what I did in those 10 years, I raised 3 babies. And you're too young to have any kids, but and as a son of parents, you really understand the value of relationships with a family. And I was gifted with that ability to spend 10 years being a present father, husband, and member of my community. But it also gave me time to swim in the social river. And I saw the immense power of social media, how it's going to change the way we work, play, buy, and sell. I started to look for a relationship manager that incorporated social conversations and relationships. I couldn't find it. Then I started looking at contact management and CRM and saw that it was really broken. Contact management back then was Google Productivity Suite and Microsoft on-prem Outlook, and neither was incorporating social, and each was a siloed contact database for each team member. So there wasn't a central contact database for the company, and none of it incorporated social. And I really believe that social has changed the way we work, play, buy, and sell. So I basically felt the same chords in my head that I felt when I founded GoldMine in founding Nimble, which essentially is the next generation of relationship management, incorporating social media contacts in order for you to connect and grow your business.
Yeah, and you mentioned something before the show that was really interesting in terms of this phenomenon about keeping this relationship up and how you kind of view your systems as not just ways to pound people with information, outreach, but really to connect with them in different areas. And describe what cued you into knowing that social would be such a high value piece to your prospects, people within industries, knowing that LinkedIn was becoming more popularized. People were transacting over social platforms like Instagram, not even just B2C type companies, but also B2B companies. What in particular cued you in that the ecosystem of sales is going to be around everything outside of your kind of first point of contact and really relies on the relationship bits and conversations you have outside of the business offerings and things like that? One, what did you see in terms of signals that I guess created that hypothesis, but also how has that relationship management ecosystem changed as social platforms become more and more active?
You bet. Great question. So I believe in what I call the 5 F's of life, that relationships are built on commonalities around friends. 5 F's of life. I'm slipping there. I'll come back to that. But essentially, it's what I used to teach people when you went into somebody's office and looked at their walls. You look at the books, the degree of the school they went to, the knickknacks they collect. All these things are what you have in common with that person. And when you go into somebody's office, you connect on those commonalities to build intimacy and trust, to get them to open up to you about their business issues, which as a professional, you can then solve. And the business commonalities are less important than the personal commonalities, because that's how people are going to remember you. And the relationships will be sticky, as opposed to if you just are transactional with somebody. And so this is really the roots of CRM, which is contact management. And that's why people love things like GoldMine, because it was really about empowering that customer facing business people to build a relationship. Today's CRMs aren't about relationships. CRM says customer relationship management. It should say customer reporting management, because the reason they call it Salesforce, you have to force salespeople to use it. Nobody's right to use a CRM. They've been beat on to do it. And I believe the biggest cause of failure of CRM is lack of use, and the second is bad data. You have to work for it by Googling people and type in shit in the computer. And then you have to go to it to use it. And that's why people don't really use them. And so that's my roots, is relationship contact management, by building these one-to-one connections that last time. And that's essentially what, when I started to use social media, I saw it was just like that wall that basically helps you to build the connections. I wanted to take those soft connections I was building in Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn and bring them into a contact platform. Because if all you're doing is building connections in these social places and not bringing them into a system that you can segment and outreach and manage and nurture those relationships, then you're effed. And so because I pioneered and invented contact management, CRM, and I was an early adopter of social media, it was really easy for me to see future for it.
Yeah. And how critical was building to integrate with all these different resources initially? Did you start out in that way in terms of integrating with like LinkedIn and all these other resources or platforms that brought in data, or was that part of the evolution of Nimble?
No,
Part of the
that was
DNA of the evolution?
no.
Yeah.
So the roots of Nimble,
Why was that important? Yeah.
the roots of Nimble are very similar to the roots of GoldMine, which is the heart of your relationship system are the contacts you're connecting to, the conversations that you're having, and the activities that you're scheduling. So email, contact, and calendar. And so you already have that in Google, in their Google Productivity Suite, and now in Microsoft 365. But it's a separate contact database for every single team member in those systems. And what you want is a unified contact database from all the siloed places that they are, with all the history of interactions on email, calendar, and ideally social integrated to it. So then no matter who picks up the phone, you know who it is, what happened, who did it, what's going to happen, who's going to do it. And so we first built a contact system, a CRM, that automatically unified email, contact, and calendar from your Google and then Microsoft productivity platforms. And then we tied into all the social platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, back in the day, Foursquare, et cetera. And we actually were able to go to LinkedIn and have them give us their public and private API. So we were deeper integrated to LinkedIn than any other contact platform in the world, including contact synchronization, all the details on the contacts, messages synchronization, notifications, the ability to send messages, et cetera. And so we heavily invested in the social part of CRM, pioneering social selling and social CRM. And that was great until LinkedIn offered to buy us, but didn't offer us enough money. And they wanted us to help them build Sales Navigator. And they went on to go ahead and build that, but they cut off the API to us and every other platform in the market. And then Facebook cut off the API because they didn't want people building alternative UIs to Facebook. They want you in Facebook so they can collect all your data. And so slowly the social API started to slip away. So we had this huge traction early on with the pioneering social CRM and social selling. And then there was a bit of a burr where those APIs went away and we had to reimagine ourselves.
Yeah. And how'd you go about reimagining? Did you reinvest in building a team of engineers to create a platform that is almost like an API aggregate to plug into those systems? What in particular, how'd you get over that hump and reintegrate those resources back into your platform?
So originally when I built Nimble, I thought people would live in it. And just like they lived in GoldMine. GoldMine was Outlook for tens of millions of businesses around the world. But what I realized is that no matter how much we build the Nimble platform, people are going to live where they live, right? We live in our email inbox. We live in LinkedIn. We live in Twitter. We live in the business productivity apps that we might happen to be using, like you use Apollo, et cetera. So I said to myself, really the future of CRM is a CRM that automatically builds itself in the siloed contacts in your business, which is your email productivity suite, your social contacts, and your sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting applications. There's contacts in all of them. So we unify all of those automatically, enrich them with people, company data, and then work back where you live. So we built a plugin for Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Edge. that we call Nimble Prospector, and it literally works in every place you work. So it automatically plugs into Google and Microsoft email productivity suites, works inside email, contact, and calendar in those platforms. But most importantly, it works in the social places you engage, because we all live in places like Twitter and LinkedIn, and then the productivity apps that you use, whatever business apps you use, and maybe the business sites that you visit, the articles that you read. So Nimble Prospector will automatically bring up a record of any contact that you're looking at on any screen that you're on, or automatically build a record for that person, so that with one click, instead of having to go look up all their stuff in Google, Nimble will automatically bring down their avatar, their bio, their location, their company name, the company background information, and then even give you their email, so that if you wanted to outreach, you could with templated trackable outreach emails. So rather than having to go buy a CRM and then Zoom Info or a LinkedIn Sales Navigator and then Outreach.io and SalesLoft, which each costs $100 per user per month, for $25 per user per month, you can have all that in Nimble.
It's so fascinating thinking about how robust the technology is. And it's really ahead of its time in terms of, you see a lot of platforms or companies building kind of, it's almost, we think about it very much in like developer tools, right? To have a sketchpad or notepad that automatically keeps track and almost is like a peer along building with them. But it's similar in the way that Nimble's allowing you to not only engage with your prospects in one area, but understand where you've engaged with them in other areas, and describe the impact of that in terms of social selling and what that actually means. I think a lot of people think about, I got to post on LinkedIn, I've got to like a bunch of posts, I got to comment and things like that. I don't think that's the case. I think there's other mechanics that keep you really relevant within someone's social ecosystem that then kind of leads to strong relationships and ideally business outcomes. How do you define social selling, and what are the tactics and strategies that you deploy or that Nimble deploys that are outside of what people think about, which is, like I mentioned, the posting and things like that? What's a little bit more active, and how do you stay relevant to your prospects?
So let me come back to the 5S, because it came back to my head. So it's family, friend, food, fun, and fellowship. These are the commonalities of relationships. This is the glue that connects us. And this is what you want to build with any human being that you're connecting with on this planet. And because by having that connection, that's 60% of the fuel of a rocket is getting into orbit, or a car getting up to 60 miles an hour. But to maintain the orbit, it takes very little. So once you've invested in a relationship, then keeping up to speed is just nudging it every once in a while, like that plate on the pencil that guy does in the juggling. And so my philosophy on social selling is this: you should build an identity in all the places that are relevant to your constituency. And I say constituency because it's not just prospects and customers you want to go after. You want to go after their influencers as well. And then give your knowledge away on a daily basis. Because I believe if you teach people to fish, they'll figure out yourself fishing poles. And then listen for the engagement that happens from the content that you're sharing. And if you're not good at writing, then curate people that inspire you in and around the areas of your promise of products and services. So that's what I did to build the Nimble brand. And my brand is I shared content from people that resonated with me around social sales and marketing. And then I listened for them to engage with me. And rather than connecting with them and saying, hey, you want to buy Nimble? Or, hey, will you talk about Nimble for me? What I did is I connected with them, and my philosophy in that is pay people forward, build pay it forward relationships, and the world will come to you. And so I connected with them, and I did my homework. So I knew who they were and what their business is about. I asked them relevant questions, and I just shut the F up and listened for 30 minutes. If you let somebody talk, they'll fall in love with you, and you'll learn how you can add value to them. Once I then added that value, they naturally said, what are you doing, John? And what's up? And I told them about Nimble. They started to use it. They started talking about it, recommending it. And that's how we get 100,000 uniques per month to our website with no advertising. And so influencer marketing has been key to building both of the startups that I founded, GoldMine and Nimble. It's just with Nimble, we do it from a social way.
Yeah. That word of mouth, also kind of organic traffic, is that just doing good work? Is that accomplishing a certain particular task? Is that targeting a certain customer base? Getting that word of mouth traction is challenging. And what are the first milestones, if you're thinking back the early days of Nimble as a founder, what are those first milestones that you should key in on to then kind of perpetuate that momentum and start getting, whether it's people using your product or service or asking and inquiring, what should I be focusing on? Being that you can kind of be spread in so many different directions, being that there's so many priorities. How would you focus on that earlier if you were to give earlier founder advice?
So if you want people to consider your product, you need to touch them from multiple angles, multiple times. And so if I can get, if I can get a influencer that they trust or a friend to
Yeah.
recommend me, that's one touch. If I can get a publication that they trust or a reviewer or a podcast to recommend me, that's another touch.
Yeah.
And so you want to do is you want to create these multiple touches. And that's what we did. We started with the influencers and then we went to the publications, the PC magazines and other places that write about articles, the podcasts, the blogs. And then we went to the business productivity apps that they trust. We built relationships with Google, with Microsoft, and with Adobe and other companies that we integrate with. And then what they did is they started recommending us as the trusted thing. And then their resellers started recommending it. And then people that they know and trust recommended. And all of a sudden you become a company standard. And so
Yeah.
that takes time to build the PR outreach, the influencer outreach, the press outreach, the
Yeah.
podcast outreach. But we've done all this with zero advertising. So it's
Yeah.
absolutely doable and it just takes intelligent investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Shifting gears here, thinking about the history of Nimble, what's been exciting about where the company has gone up to this point, and what in particular is exciting about the next phase that Nimble kind of looks in terms of the direction?
Well, I want to start with our roots is contact management and relationship management. What I saw when I entered the marketplace 10 years ago is that
Yeah.
CRM isn't about relationships, it's about command and control and reporting. And it's not really delivering the full suite. So you still have to buy Salesforce, Zoom Info, Outreach IO. And you know what I'm talking about. That's the same
Yeah.
pretty stack that all these SDRs at these startups are paying for, $300 per
Yeah.
month. And the reps don't even know how to use this stuff. So then you got to hire an admin to do it. And they're not relationship focused. They're really designed for management to command and control rather than to empower that rep to truly engage and build the relationships. And so I think what makes Nimble unique is our relationship focus, that we automatically build records, that we work with you everywhere you work, and that our outcome isn't just a deal. Because in most cases, the outcome of engagement is rarely a dollar. In many cases, it's those paired forward relationships that really will accelerate your dollars. And that's what we call workflows. And so by having a unique platform that completely differentiates from the traditional pipe drives or Salesforces or HubSpots, I think is really great for our traction, but more
Yeah.
importantly, getting other people to talk about us. So we built an integration with the Microsoft commercial marketplace, and
Yeah.
Microsoft has signed up as our global reseller for Nimble. So we become the Simple CRM for Microsoft 365. If you want to buy Nimble, you could buy it through Microsoft on the App Store. You could buy it as a reseller through distribution alongside Microsoft 365. And they're
Yeah.
paying the distributors and their resellers to go push Nimble. Why? They've got Microsoft Dynamics, but it's really more of an enterprise CRM. And the majority of Microsoft customers are SMBs. And so we sort of fill that gap between Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Dynamics, helping grow the resellers and the customers from just using Microsoft 365, being ready to use the rest of the Microsoft product suite. And so you can't do it alone as a startup. You need to build a community around you. I call it the self-sustaining garden you want to build around your business of not just prospects and customers, or not even just influencers, but it's a whole series of individuals that are involved with your community where you're helping them grow and thereby they're helping you grow. And that's basically how we did it at GoldMine and how we're doing it at Nimble today. And what's really interesting is it's a lot of the same players. Microsoft helped us get to $100 million a year ago, 10 years ago, and they're doing it again today.
And what made you think about partnering with, was it just I guess, a result of what you were building that you partnered with Microsoft because you were integrating into their platform? Because from how I think about it, it's almost like a channel partner, having your first customer base being something a little bit smaller, like an SMB company, and then as they scale, needing to add more features. But yeah, that all sounds good and dandy when you think about like, oh, let's give you minimum value and then you'll add on other features and you'll pay more money. But nobody, I mean, maybe you do, but most people don't know how to necessarily understand the mechanics of how to actually accomplish that. What made you think of partnering with Microsoft? Was that kind of channel partnership and others giving you that ability to kind of go upstream as your companies grow or as your clients grow? How are you able to kind of, I guess, accomplish that tactic? Being that it's not necessarily, it's a challenging one because it takes a little bit longer in terms of that relationship.
Yeah. Great question. If you think about the most CRM ISVs,
Yeah.
Pipedrive, HubSpot, et cetera, they're generating their eyeballs through mostly AdWords and driving those expensive eyeballs into SDRs and just multiply the dollars there. So like, how much does every lead cost them? Which is driving up their costs. So they have to raise their costs because of all the costs, and it's a downward spiral to death of the cost of the CRM tag word in all those AdWords. So we have built our traffic through the pay forward influencer marketing, guerrilla PR, but the channel with Microsoft, that's how we basically grew GoldMine. And I knew how to do that relationship because what happened is when we started GoldMine, Novell was the operating system for networks for small businesses. And we started by partnering with their resellers.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft doesn't innovate, they iterate. They wait for someone else to build the market. Then they come in when it's big enough to build something good enough, NT server, and then use their muscle, billions of users and hundreds of thousands of hours to dominate the market. So I saw how Microsoft ate Novell. And we basically partnered with Microsoft by integrating into small business server, NT server, SQL server, and Exchange server. And we drove their first party solution with a third party product. And then they pushed the crap out of us. So fast forward to today or years ago, when I started the Microsoft relationship, Microsoft didn't have a cloud productivity suite. Google did. They had on-prem Exchange servers and Outlook. And so I saw Microsoft launch Office 365 and I knew they'd eat Novell, and they have. Literally, Microsoft 365 dominates today. So I knew if I built integrations with the products, Microsoft 365, et cetera, Azure, that would give me access to the people, which would give me access to the programs, and that I knew how to do that dance. Microsoft is this mammoth gorilla, and not gorilla, woolly mammoth. And you can't do it with one person, either as a contact at Microsoft or as a contact at your company. So it takes a team of people working with a team of people there in order to build the trust and the relationships. But because of my stature in the industry, I think it did open some doors, but you got to follow up and follow through to make it happen. And it literally took us probably 7 years to get to where we are. So it's not a simple task, but I'll tell you what, by having the trusted advisor of the small businesses who sold the Microsoft 365 recommend Nimble as the add-on thing on top of it, it's been friggin' golden.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's just such a great way to kind of, like you said, drive first party outcomes with third party solutions. It's such a brilliant way because it integrates and it creates that trusted ecosystem, which is so challenging, cutting through all the noise, all the stuff people talking about. But that initial bit of trust, I mean, it's crucial for where, where you're
think about how many million Microsoft 365 businesses are out there, and how many could use a team contact platform for the whole company and the sales and productivity marketing suite that we have on top of that. And so it's just a natural thing for any Microsoft customer to buy, even if they already have a CRM, because the CRM is the sales tool for the salespeople, but they don't have a contact database for the whole company. And so it's a really easy sale for the Microsoft solution providers.
Yeah. Shifting gears here, whether it's external or internal, what are some of the biggest risks that you think Nimble faces today?
One of the great things is we've minimized a lot of those risks because of eliminating our reliance on other people's APIs. So we're not relying on the social APIs anymore. We actually will work within those platforms to automatically work as you dance within Twitter and LinkedIn and any apps that you're using. So besides that, the big thing on everybody's mind is AI, right? Like, how can you make your tools better, smarter, faster to assist us all? And so that's where we're leaning in. We've already got a Chat GPT integration that does some amazing things. We're not talking about public yet, but I definitely think that the companies that see the future and build for it today, just like we did with social, just like we did with GoldMine by pioneering contact management and CRM and market automation before they even were thought to be used. I think that's how companies stay ahead of the curve. And I definitely think that Nimble is surfing on that wave, ready for that next big thing.
Yeah. obviously the company's been around for 10 plus years and you've had such success and created such partnerships and continue delivering outcomes. What's the long-term vision? If everything goes well, what continues to be the long-term vision of the company?
Well, what's interesting is we've had a lot of inquiries from
Yeah.
companies that really could use a
Yeah.
contact CRM like Nimble. And I think that the biggest potential company for us to partner even deeper with is Microsoft,
Yeah.
because Microsoft today has Microsoft 365, which is a great email productivity suite. But like I said, every team member has a separate contact database, and
Yeah.
their resellers today mainly sell plumbing to plumbers. They sell IT infrastructure to IT decision makers. They sell Microsoft 365 backup security and
Yeah.
migration, but they don't sell any business applications on top. And what we're doing is we're transforming those Microsoft resellers into solution sellers by getting them to sell their first business productivity app on top. And then
Yeah.
we're becoming the Trojan horse to the rest of Microsoft's crown jewels, which is Azure, Microsoft Dynamics,
Yeah.
Power Apps, Power BI, et cetera. And it's just what we did with GoldMine and Microsoft
Yeah.
Small Business Server. So my end goal is to become the relationship platform for hundreds of millions of people around the world, not just CRM. I think contact management is the blue
Yeah.
ocean opportunity. And I think we're really positioned well for that. Secondly to that, I think that everybody in the world should have a personal CRM. And I think
Yeah.
that that's a wide open marketplace, because your brand and your network are your net worth, and everybody should have a system they could unify their contacts, because LinkedIn is not your contact manager. You can't tag, you can't make notes, you can't segment, you can't outreach, you can't do the basics. And so I see
Yeah.
Nimble not just being the world's small business CRM, but really the world's personal CRM. And
Yeah.
I think that in the near future, there's probably going to be an acquisition, not for me to walk away, but for me to lean in, because then I could
Yeah.
leverage that these basic customers or resellers, et cetera, to really just blow the doors off this thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in it to make another $100 million. I'm in it to transform people's lives. Because
Yeah.
a year after I sold GoldMine, I got a head tumor and almost died. And what that made me realize is that, what's my purpose for being on this planet? So I did some soul
Yeah.
search, did some spiritual work, and I came to the conclusion I'm on this planet to grow my soul in the brief period of time that I'm here. And the best way for me to grow my soul is by helping other people grow theirs. And I think
Yeah.
that Nimble is the perfect way for people to help them achieve their dreams. And so I think there's a higher purpose to Nimble, which is powering people's dreams around the
Yeah.
world. And I think that that's really what needs to shift in sales. Most
Yeah.
salespeople think, how much dollars can I extract from you? But if they shifted that and said, how much can I help you grow? Then I think that it'll change the way people sell. It'll change their purpose of being in business and connecting for relationships. And I think that the world will unfold to them, because Dale Carnegie said, the more people you help grow, the more you will grow.
Yeah, I love that, and it's such a if you were to think about it as a nice message or evangelist message, but it really does kind of breed the outcomes with that activity that you're focused on. People
Yeah.
naturally connect. People naturally want to keep engaged, want to keep a network, but networks are becoming more vast, more dispersed in terms of locations, that it's becoming increasingly challenging to keep up with anyone, whether it's professional, personal, but especially as I think a lot of people, and maybe you agree with this, are really thinking about how their professional lives collaborate with their personal lives and really kind of reimagining that relationship, whether I work at X company and then I have my separate life, or my work and my life are cohesively bonded in some homogenous
Like
relationship.
siloed relationships.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Go back 100 years, we all lived in a small village and
Yeah,
everybody knew everyone, and your brand was built on the promises you make and the experience you delivered. And
yeah,
people that you connect with in business, you took them home for dinner. You took them to a
yeah,
ball game. And hopefully you're still doing that, because why spend whatever amount of time you're spending per week working if you're
yeah,
not building relationships with people that you really dig, and then taking those relationships to another level? So
yeah,
a lot of the influencers that I've connected with and the partners, not only have I connected with them on the business side, but I bring them home and I cook for them. We go to games together. It's
yeah,
like, that's what life's really about. And so
yeah,
people have forgotten that it's not B2C or B2B, it's P2P and H to H. It's person to person.
yeah,
And I think that social media is changing the way we look at these things. And I think
Yeah.
it's changing it all back to that small village because I connect to people all over the world digitally in this way.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to do that connection, ideally, I can nurture it over time and find ways to grow it. But if you do what I say, which is build your brand, inspire and educate on a daily basis around the promise of your product in the communities where your constituency learn and grow, and then listen and engage, not with the intent to
Yeah.
sell, but to serve, you're going to have tens of thousands of connections and you can't manage them in LinkedIn. You can't manage them in your head. You can only manage 100 to 200 people in your head at one time. That's why you need Nimble. And
Yeah.
if Nimble's resonated with you and you go sign up at nimble.com, use the code John40 and you get 40% off your first 3 months.
Amazing, John. I love the offering and how you kind of view the way your product or your tool really enables people and supports people versus thinking about outcomes, thinking about everything that this package can offer you. It's more about how it enables you to just do what you're doing already, even that much better. I always like the next section. I call it my founder FAQ. So I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions, John, and we'll see where we get. So I always like to break it in with an easy one. What's particularly hard about your job day to day?
Well, we're a digital remote company these
Yeah.
days since COVID. And because I'm home, I'm accessible to my family. And so a lot of times I get honeydews in the middle of the
Yeah.
day and or my kids need something. And so it's a little harder to balance all those things than it would have been to be in an office. But it's
Yeah.
also a blessing because life's so short. You spend such a short period of time with your kids or with your significant other. And so you could either sort of say, oh my God, this is horrible, or oh my gosh, isn't this great? And so I'm leaning more towards the latter.
Yeah. What's something that you're really good at now that you wish you were better at earlier on in your career as a founder?
Writing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that communication is key to life. And
Yeah.
as a math computer science major, I wasn't a great writer, but I become one. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if I take the writing that I do and I upload it to chat GPT, gosh, I
Yeah.
love that system. It can
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
get your work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was also thinking about ways that can mechanically just help with other things. One thing I wanted to start doing was do more core answers to really just like continue that engagement. And it not necessarily replaces what I'm going to say, but like you said, it really just kind of recaptures it and reformatizes it
It
and really creates a productive
it
process.
polishes it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't think everybody listening to this today has an English degree or knows the difference between effect and affect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of that, right? And so yeah, I think that communication is key to life and clear, concise, beautiful words have
Yeah.
power. And so before you send that important business email or even Slack message, if it's really, really important, chat GPT it, baby.
Yeah. I love that. Thinking about the just the evolution of a lot of systems, especially CRM, as you mentioned, it kind of turned into a reporting system, just kind of maybe some superlative analytics to see where your pipeline might have leaks and things like that. But thinking about, relationship management, I lean on Web3 as it's building this philosophy around community. Its brands are around community. It's all about engagement, all about relationships. Are you seeing a revitalization of that customer relationship management platform actually accomplishing the things that it was initially set out to, which was engaging with people, building relationships, adding value, being a trusted member? Are you seeing more of that added with the invent of newer technologies like Web3, or is it more macro changes within companies being more, conscious about the relationship that they're building with their customers? Where have you seen the evolution of CRMs, and are you happy where it's going?
Well, I still feel that the CRM industry is more designed for management who buys it than
Yeah.
the customer facing business people that use it. And I
Yeah.
don't see that changing because they sell to the business owner, they sell to the business managers, and that's who they serve. And
Yeah.
so CRM are still mainly designed for sales and for sales managers who have their finger on the pulse of the business and a hand around the neck of the salespeople. Let's face it, sales managers and owners don't trust salespeople. They
Yeah.
never have. And it's a love-hate relationship. And so GoldMine and Nimble was designed for that customer-facing business team member. Of course, we have the management reporting tools and all that to facilitate the tools you need to manage and lead people and to analyze your business. But you really, the heart of it is that relationship management stuff. And I see it getting worse for the
Yeah.
sales community tools. The automation is just getting overused. People
Yeah.
put people on these tracks of emails that are written by marketing people that don't know a thing about relationships or sales. And salespeople are just using it because they're told to use them. And all our
Yeah.
inboxes are getting filled with all this crap email. But when
Yeah.
somebody actually takes time to look at who you are, figure out what you're doing, and send a clear, concise message of value to you, and especially if they spent a few weeks nurturing you by sharing their content and engaging with you in a relevant, authentic way, that person's going to stand out because I think the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And I think
Yeah.
the more human you are, the more you will stand out in today's over digitized world.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about your company in particular, what's something that is top of mind? If you were to wave a magic wand, something that you could have resolved tomorrow, is it building product, building a certain feature set? Is it hiring? Is it fundraising? What in particular, if you were to wave a magic wand, would you want resolved today?
Well, we have a machine we've built over time that converts at a consistent north of 5% visitor to trial, north of 10% trial to paid, lifetime value over 3 years. And so it's like a machine that just works.
Yeah.
It's just consistent like that. And so if I were to wave a magic wand, I would just want millions of people in the world to really understand our
Yeah.
purpose and vision, how we stand out differently as a relationship platform, how our vision is to power you to achieve your dreams
Yeah.
by ideally connecting with others to help them achieve theirs. And that we're at our heart, a content platform, the whole company, not just salespeople, with a system with outcomes that are not just a dollar and a deal, but the workflows that you need to be able to manage contacts across your entire company cross-functionally to build those repeatable people and company data processes you need to scale. And so
Yeah.
really wave a magic wand, more eyeballs, baby.
Yeah. If you were working on Nimble, what would you be doing?
I love history. I love photography. I love astronomy. I love traveling with my family. I love cooking and food. And so all of those things in a blend, backpacking, mountain biking. And so I spent 10 years really leaning into that in between GoldMine and Nimble. And I see
Yeah.
myself doing that at some point in the future, including giving back. Because I'd
Yeah.
love to teach and grow other entrepreneurs and help
Yeah.
them achieve their dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I always like to ask this next question because I love how founders extract knowledge out of anything that they ingest, whether it's books or people. Whose influence or impacted you the most today?
I'd have to say Dale Carnegie book on influencing others.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that a lot of the words that people share today are just built on the shoulders of giants. So
Yeah.
if you think about like all these influencers today that are sort of spouting off all these words, it's really just a regurgitation of the giants. So I think that if you were to take time to read 2 books, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and Dale Carnegie's famous book on building friends and influence.
Yeah. But like making friends and influencing people or something like that. Yeah. I've read both. Yeah. Brilliant
Yeah.
books. Yeah.
And Dale Carnegie, the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich, is really I call the 3 Ps: passion, plan, and purpose. Figure out what your passion is, build a plan to achieve it, make it your purpose on a daily basis. And that's how we were able to bootstrap GoldMine on $5,000, never took a dime of venture, bank loans, nothing, and grew it to $125 million a year in revenue, is putting our goal on the refrigerator. And every time we open it to make mac and cheese when we were struggling, we just stayed focused on that, kept putting one foot in front of the other. And eventually we got to the top of this mountain. We said, if we could just get there. And then we saw that, okay, we're on the top of that mountain. Well, there's another mountain right over there that we got to keep going to get there. And the entrepreneurial journey is is amazing. But I think that one of the things you definitely want to do is not lose track of your family and friends through the process.
Mm,
Because in building Goldmine, I really gave all that up to just get that thing done. And I think I've found a better balance in Nimble.
yeah. How are you able to find that balance? What in particular allows you to have, that, that balance between work and the other things that probably rejuvenate, recharge, and add a little bit more happiness and joy? How are you able to find that balance being that as a founder, you kind of live and breathe your products for a while?
I think that the universe needs to smack you a little bit for you to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say that you need to tear muscle to make muscle.
Yeah.
And so with as much success as I've had in my life, I've been smacked by the universe, including my encounter with cancer
Yeah.
after selling Goldmine. And it made me stop and think and to do some work. And I think that we all should be doing continuous work in our life to tear that muscle and grow it. And not just the physical stuff, but the spiritual and the emotional stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I've done that investment, continue to try to do those investments. And I think that's what really has transformed me into the human that I am today.
Yeah. John, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. I know we're coming to the end of the show here, so I want to make sure we didn't leave anything on the table. Is there any question I didn't ask you that I should have, or anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up? Obviously, we'll give you a chance to give us your plugs and your LinkedIn's and all that good stuff. But before we do that, is there anything that we left on the table today that you wanted to share with our audience?
Well, I think that I've shared before, your brand new network are your net worth, and that you should be working on building your brand on a daily basis. And I call it for the 5 E's of social selling: educate, educate, enchant, engage, embrace, and empower. And essentially it's that whole idea about giving your knowledge away. Stop talking about yourself. Stop talking about your products. People don't buy great products. They buy better versions of themselves. So you should be
Yeah.
selling others a better version of themselves on a daily basis. Put your customers at the heart of your storytelling. Make them the hero. Show them how you can grow, how you can help them grow, and people will build a path to your door.
Yeah. Yeah. John, it's been such a pleasure not only learning about your career and your early exit, but not early exit, but your exit earlier in your career and how that kind of revitalized and re-inspired this continuous kind of journey you've been on, which is to create meaningful relationships between not only customers and prospects and clients and prospects and what have you, but people and people, and doing it in a way that is very organic and utilizes the activities that we already like to do, but at scale, being that it is so hard to keep track of people and hard to engage and hard to, even with my own family sometimes, just keeping in touch is challenging. But all in all, John, it's been such a pleasure learning from you. I hope you enjoyed yourself on the podcast today. And thank you again for joining us. And last little bit is, where can we find and support you? Give us your plugs. Where can we be a fan of you as a founder, but also Nimble? What are your LinkedIn's, your Twitters? Where can we find you?
Well, it's easy to find me. Google me and find a place that works for you. Of course, my company is nimble.com, but I also encourage you to Google yourself, because people are
Yeah.
going to Google you before a meeting. And if you don't show up on the first page, you could fix that by starting to share content on a daily basis, and even build a Wikipedia page on yourself, because it's easy and free as long as you follow the rules, and that will show up
Yeah.
in your search. But if you want to connect with me, you'll find me in all the places. If you Google John, Jon, Ferrara, Ferrara. And if you have to reach out to me, my email is john@nimble.com. I'm easy to find.
Amazing, John. Thank you again for joining us today on Behind Company Lines.
You bet. I appreciate it, Julian. And again, if you sign up for Nimble and you want to become a subscriber, use the code John40, get 40% off your first 3 months, and then let me know how we can improve Nimble and improve you as you grow in your life.
Amazing.